GitHub CEO Thomas D resigned. GitHub's independence just died because CEO Thomas D resigned and Microsoft is absorbing the platform into its core AI division. The playful startup culture that built GitHub is giving away to Microsoft's AI's first empire.
Pretty major news about GitHub, the absolute giant of code hosting and collaboration, is no longer going to be an independent company. If you remember, Microsoft bought GitHub back in 2018 for a whopping $7.5 billion. But up until now, GitHub has still been operating as its own separate thing. That's all changing, and it's honestly a huge shift for anyone who writes code, manages repos, or just cares about where the future of software development is headed. The core of it is this. After the resignation of GitHub CEO Thomas Dohmke, Microsoft is officially dissolving GitHub as an independent entity and folding it right into their core AI team. That means no more standalone GitHub leadership, no more company within a company structure. It's just straight up part of Microsoft now. But the best part, or maybe the wildest part, depending on how you look at it, is that this is all happening as AI is taking over pretty much everything about coding. Now, let me show you how this is playing out. And as we go, I'll also point out what makes this move so different from anything we've seen before. Let's start with the official word. In his farewell note, Thomas Dohmke said, GitHub and its leadership team will continue its mission as part of Microsoft's core AI organization, with more details shared soon. I'll be staying through the end of 2025 to help guide the transition, and am leaving with a deep sense of pride in everything we've built as a remote-first organization spread around the world. That's a pretty classy exit, but the subtext is clear. GitHub as a separate company is done. And if you look at the reporting from The Verge, they spell it out. Microsoft isn't replacing Dohmke's CEO position, and GitHub will now be fully part of Microsoft instead of being run as a separate entity. So, there's that. Basically, what it does is it moves all of GitHub's operations, leadership, and future development directly under Microsoft's AI engineering umbrella, which is now called Core AI. This team is led by Jay Parikh, who used to be at Meta, and now he's running this new division that's all about building AI platforms and tools. Parikh actually described his vision as an AI agent factory, which is kinda cool and also a little bit dystopian if you ask me. He said, just like how Bill Gates had this idea of Microsoft being a bunch of software developers building a bunch of software, I want our platform, for any enterprise or any organization, to be able to be the thing they turn into their own agent factory. So, the idea is that GitHub is now a core part of this push to make Microsoft the central hub for AI-driven software development. Let's talk about what this means for developers. First off, GitHub has been on a tear lately. Over 1 billion repos and forks, more than 150 million developers, and a ton of momentum in AI projects. Dohmke pointed out, AI projects have doubled in the last year alone, and our presence in companies of any size is unmatched in the market. That's not bad at all. Plus, GitHub Copilot has gone from just a cool autocomplete tool to a full-on coding assistant with chat, voice, code review, and even app creation features. As Dohmke put it, today, GitHub Copilot is the leader of the most successful and thriving market in the age of AI, with over 20 million users and counting. That's pretty awesome. But, and there's always a but, this move is making a lot of people nervous. If you check out the Hacker News threads, the community is buzzing with concerns. One user said, GitHub will now fall under Microsoft's core AI team, which gives some indication of GitHub's purpose and direction going forward. Another pointed out, we could barely convince the reviewers on the last review that using GitHub is okay as long as we take some extra steps. I guess we should prepare to switch to a different platform with the next review. There's definitely a vibe that some folks are thinking about alternatives like GitLab, Gitea, or Forgejo, especially if they're worried about Microsoft using GitHub as a giant AI training set, or focusing too much on AI features at the expense of the core product. And now comes the best part, or the most controversial part, depending on your perspective. By moving GitHub into core AI, Microsoft is signaling that the future of GitHub is going to be all about AI. More Copilot, more coding agents, and probably a lot more integration with Microsoft's overall AI platform. Some users are even joking that GitHub is going to become an agent factory, and that all your code is basically going to be training data for Microsoft's AI. There's a quote that sums it up. GitHub may have more value as the largest software training corpus in the world than as a paid VCS, and Microsoft gets to uniquely utilize that as they will have non-rate limited internal APIs and/or dumps to train on. That's a little bit wild if you think about it. So, what's my take? I mean, I liked GitHub as a mostly independent platform, and I think a lot of you guys did too. But honestly, this was probably inevitable. The writing's been on the wall ever since Microsoft started pushing Copilot and integrating more AI into everything. The upside is that GitHub's not going anywhere, and if you love Copilot and all the new AI tooling, you'll probably see even more of it, faster. The downside is that it's now just another piece of the Microsoft machine, and if you're worried about privacy, lock-in, or just want something a little more open, it might be time to check out the alternatives. Still, you can't argue with the scale and the innovation that's happening. That is majorly about it. I thought to share my thoughts about it as well. Please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
NVIDIA and AMD just agreed to give the US government 15% of all of their China chip sales. This unprecedented deal shows how AI chips have become the new oil in the global power game. NVIDIA and AMD just agreed to give the US government 15% of all of their China chip sales. This unprecedented deal shows how AI chips have become the new.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unprecedented arrangement if you consider it simply an export tax. What we understand from sourcing is like this is a quid pro quo, that export licenses for NVIDIA and AMD to be permitted to sell a specific chip that each of the companies had designed for the Chinese market. They will give up 15% of future revenues. And, the math's important. Historically, those numbers you were going over in the prior segment, 24% for AMD, 13% for NVIDIA, those are from the last fiscal year. And the state of play has been that NVIDIA and AMD have not been allowed to sell product directly into China. They haven't done. NVIDIA is the only company that's commented on this reporting and story, and they did so very purposefully, saying we have not yet shipped any of our so-called H20 chip. But the market, in one hand, sees this as really positive. They have been campaigning to be able to sell into China, and on the other hand, there's a cautionary tale because they'll pay a levy on it, in the billions of dollars on a fiscal year basis. And China may have something to say about it, but this is all according to people familiar, of course.
Hey, and what could this mean for NVIDIA and AMD pushing, even deeper into the Chinese market?
So NVIDIA in particular, Jensen Huang, the CEO, has been very consistent that it's important to have access to the Chinese market because 50% of all of the research in the world that goes into AI is either being done in China or it's being done by a Chinese national. There is a deep research, R&D, development footprint, call it what you will. And if you look at the sell side reaction this morning, the analysts all back Jensen on this line of argument that if you're not allowed to sell American technology into China, you're handing that market over to a domestic champion. In this case, it's Huawei. And that's not a new warning. Jensen Huang has come on Bloomberg Television and made a very explicit warning on that. Behind closed doors, as we've reported, he's met with President Trump in the White House and discussed that. But before all of these restrictions came into place, the important bit was that China was a really big end market, and the policy of the current administration kind of took that away with immediate effect from, in NVIDIA's case, America's most important technology company. They would love to be getting back to booking billions of dollars of revenues on a fiscal quarter basis. But at the really key, they're not yet currently able to. This reporting around a deal that would allow them to is very interesting, but again, unprecedented.
It seems like there's a thread here. If you think about President Trump and his ability or willingness or need to generate revenue from some of our exports from the technology companies, whether it's a direct investment by Apple into U.S. manufacturing or these export type taxes here. Is this kind of a theme that's developing in Silicon Valley?
The administration loves big round numbers, especially when it comes to investments by technology companies into domestic operations. The thing about this specific piece of reporting, 15% of China-specific revenues, is you can model for it. Paul, better than anyone, the sell side must be having a field day this morning because they can start doing the math and they'll say, okay, in the most bullish scenario, NVIDIA might book $7 billion of revenue in fiscal 2Q 2026. Oh my goodness, America's going to book $1 billion of tax or $1 billion of cost on that. And so, the president is getting it done his way. But, the question that we don't know and we don't have the reporting on it is whose idea was this? The companies themselves, or was it some deal making by the president? You'd expect that giving up 15% is better than having zero, and they'd rather have that China market access.
So how is China expected to react to all this?
So in two different ways. There is the concern that is emerging out of China that having American technology come into the country in the form of a high-performance GPU or an AI chip gives some security risk to China's national security because of the accusation that NVIDIA and AMD have engineered some sort of backdoor access into that technology, something that both companies dispute and refute unwaveringly. So that's the first part. And then you go back to the domestic champion bit. The H20 in NVIDIA's case and the MI308 in AMD's case were specifically engineered for the Chinese market to make compromises to both sides. They're very low performance chips relative to what is at the cutting edge for both of those companies. And Huawei is the leader in China, domestically speaking. It has chips that are better than those chips that our American companies have for export. So they also don't want to give up some of that momentum. And it will be interesting to see, because you guys probably will have seen what's going on with lithium and CATL in the markets this morning as well. This has become a point of bargaining and negotiation between two countries. Technology going into China in exchange for raw materials going the other way.
Pika Labs just revolutionized video creation with HD lip sync videos generated in under 6 seconds. Content creators, your competition just got AI superpowers. It's time you level up your game with Pika Labs. Pika Labs.
Today, I'm diving into Pika 2.2. I've been so impressed with what I've been seeing from them lately that I just had to try it out for myself. And it's definitely one of the most insane video generation tools I've tested so far. So let me show you what I've been playing with so you can decide if this is the right video gen tool for you and your style. I'll break down how to use all of their current tools step by step, and I'll show you what makes them so different from everything else out there. Let's go. Let's just jump right into the interface. If you click right here with Pika Twists, it's kind of the default prompt box right here, and it'll ask you to upload a video. Now, what's great about Pika Twists is it's going to take your original footage and then try to morph it in a way that incorporates your prompt. So, for example, I downloaded a bunch of stock footage from pexels.com, and I'm going to take this car upload and just say, I'm going to ask it to constantly change the car color over and over, and I'll hit enter. And that will start generating my image. You'll see it pop up here in my library, and that means that your video is generating. Now, at the same time, I can delete this, upload a new video of something that I want to see, and I'm going to take this other video of this van and this woman approaching the van, and I'm going to be a little bit more specific. And I'm going to say the van catches fire and the woman runs away. And I think this is a great example because it's a very specific prompt, where the other one is kind of more vague. It has freedom to kind of choose creatively how to interpret that prompt. This one is very specific. It has to catch fire. The woman has to run away. And then let's do another one that's very just trippy, out of the box. Maybe like in the realm of fantasy. So I have this footage from the driver's point of view of a guy riding a motorcycle, and I'm going to add the prompt, add flying whales swimming in the sky. Now, all three are generating at the same time. I will come back when they are all done. Okay, so here are our results. First one, the car changing one, it technically did it, but it doesn't look great. Like, I think this could have been a way better color change. And this kind of looks like a bad filter. So I would rate this kind of low. Maybe like technically it's adhering to my prompt, so it's not like a 0, but like maybe like a 3 out of a 10, because it's not really believable in its scene, and it looks like a bad mask filter. So I would say like not convincing at all, not really usable. 3 out of 10. Our van here, it's cool. It did the van, it did a smoke puff. She starts to panic. She doesn't really run away, which is what I asked for in the prompt. I mean, at least it's believable that she would start panicking and be like, what is going on here? It doesn't do a great job with her face. Like, this is a fully AI generated face, and she also like gets an extra bag that just disappears, and I think she might even get an extra arm at some point. So, not super great, but I do think with the part with the car and the fire is like okay. I wish it was like it really caught on fire and stayed on fire. So if this was my shot, I would probably go for another regeneration and see if I could have prompted for the car staying on fire. So I don't know, maybe like a 5 out of 10 for this one. All right, here's my motorcycle one, which I was pretty interested in. Okay, at least they're in the right position and they work with the parallax. Like, that is kind of cool. I don't love the look of the whales. Like, maybe I would have, if I wanted this shot to come out, I would regenerate it again, probably specify the type of whale, maybe like an orca whale or humpback whale or something, because I don't really know what these are. These kind of have the vague shape of a whale, but they're not really, they kind of have a beak. I don't know. I do like how they look in the scene, though. We can see them kind of getting closer as the guy's driving. They kind of have the right scale and kind of the right movement. So not a total fail, but worth another regeneration if this was my shot and I wanted to use it. So maybe like a 6 out of 10.
Alibaba's Quinn 3 models now handle up to 1 million tokens with context. That's like reading an entire book in single conversation. The age of AI with perfect memory has arrived.
It seems that Quen team is living in another world. Doesn't matter what gets released in other parts of the world, they are focusing on improving and evolving their Quen 3 model family. They have just enabled 1 million context with this Quen 3 model family, and now you can enjoy it with every model which we already covered on the channel. In this video, I am going to show you how you can enable that 1 million context window, what exactly that means, and in my opinion, most importantly, what two key innovations Quen team has done in order to enable it. And I have no doubt in my mind that going further, there will be various models utilizing the same technique. So you will be looking at almost every model offering you 1 million plus context very soon, just like we saw with thinking. As soon as DeepSeek made it public, every model started coming with thinking, and now you will see that every model worth its salt would coming forward with 1 million plus context window, and then it will be just yet another feature which we will be enjoying without blinking an eye. When we say that Quen 3 30 billion A3 model or any other model in this family supports a 1 million context, what we mean is that it can handle and reason over inputs up to 1 million tokens long in a single go, which is roughly the equivalent of thousands of pages of text, even more. That's far beyond the usual 4K to 256K context limits you see in most models. This matters because it lets the model work with huge document, full code bases, or long running conversations without losing track of earlier information. To give you more context, if you go to OpenAI's website, look at ChatGPT 5's free tier, guess how much context window you get? Just 8K in that free tier. Now compare that 8K with this open source free model, which is offering you 1 million context window. The way this model is achieving it isn't just by throwing more memory at the problem. That would be impractical, to be honest. Instead, it uses two big ideas. But here I will stop and I will tell you that still not everything is rosy. If you want to enjoy 1 million context window and if you are serving the model, you would at least need, such as for this 30 billion model, 250 gig of VRAM. And that is going to come down again, that is in the near future, but still VRAM consumptions have come down, but nowhere near the commodity hardware. So if you look at their paper which they have released with it sometimes back to, this is still very much valid even if it was released for Quen 2.5 in January 2025. This also gives you a lot of interesting ideas. Now let me talk about those two key features which I believe would be very handy. And those two features are, first is dual chunk attention and the other one is M inference. Dual chunk attention or DCA means, just imagine splitting a massive book into smaller sections or chunks and making sure the model never has to compare words that are too far apart in one go. DCA remaps positions so the model only ever sees distances it was trained to understand but still keeps the global flow. It uses three attention patterns within a chunk, between chunks, and between neighboring chunks to keep coherence across the entire input. That is what DCA is. Now, let me try to explain M inference. And M inference is yet another quite cool concept, I would say. The What happens is that standard attention looks at every token when processing the next one, which is painfully slow for million token inputs. M inference makes this sparse. It identifies and focuses only the important tokens using a repeating vertical slash pattern in the attention map, skipping the rest. It's further optimized with chunked prefill, which we already have discussed in the channel. So the model processes the input in smaller batches, saving a ton of GPU memory and with sparsity refinement, so skipping tokens doesn't hurt accuracy. So these are the two concepts, which is bit, I would say, dry, But if you think about it, I think you would get the idea. Now, if you go to this model card of 1 million token, it's the same model card, they have updated it. You see, it is saying you would need approximately 250 GB of total GPU memory. Now, what I have tried to do here, I have used my Ubuntu system, and this is my GPU card, NVIDIA H100 with 80 GB of VRAM. I tried running it. I tried playing around with the parameters, and I will show you shortly how to do that. If you have that much VRAM, it just gave me out of memory error on one GPU with 80 GB of VRAM. But if you're looking to rent multiple GPUs and stuff, you can go to Mass Compute's website, and you can find their link with a discount coupon of 50% in range of GPUs, and you can check it out. So let me take you to my VS Code, and I will show you the steps if you're interested, so that you could get it installed, and then I will also explain what exactly is happening there. And before that, let me also introduce you to the sponsors of the video, who are Agent. Agent is world's first multi-agent workforce desktop application, empowering you to build, manage, and deploy a custom AI workforce that can turn your most complex workflows into automated tasks, and you will find their link in video's description. The tool which I am going to use is VLLM. If you don't know what VLLM is, just go to my channel, search with VLLM, and then you can find this video to get it installed in no time. It's one of the fastest inference engine. There is another inference engine which you can use, which is SGLang, and that already we have covered on the channel. Both instructions are available on their model card, but I would prefer VLLM because of its faster nature, and because I have been using it a lot lately in the production environment, and these are the steps which we need to do. So first up, install Hugging Face Hub, then grab your read token. So this is a read token. Don't worry, I will rotate it so it won't be valid, but I just wanted to show you. It's a free token which you can grab from your Hugging Face profile, and then once that's done, just give model name. And as I said, there are multiple models you can use from their family. Instruct one, thinking one, whatever you like. Download the model. Then you need to change this config.json to config underscore 1 million. They already provide this config to you, and I will show you shortly. Then install VLLM like this, and this is the command which you need to run. And this is where, if you closely look, the concepts, the dry ones which I explained earlier are specified, like that dual chunking, and then inference will be used behind the scene, and these are the few parameters. So you see, this first one is enabling the special DCA plus flash attention kernel for speed, and then you see we are specifying the 1 million context window here. We are also enabling a chunked prefill, which processes the input in smaller chunks to save VRAM, and then we are specifying the max num bash token, which limits how many tokens are processed at once during prefill. And if you don't know what prefill and this decoded, just search my channel, and I think I have done a very recent video on it. I'll show you quickly. This is the one. Just in 2 minutes you will be able to understand what exactly that means. Coming back here, we are enforcing the eager, which avoids CUDA graph capture, which is needed for DCA. And then max num sequence is just one. It means only one request at a time, because 1 million tokens eat huge memory. Also, GPU max utilization is just at 85% to prevent out of memory. And then enable reasoning. Enables reasoning. You can of course turn it off if you like. It all depends on you. And you can just go to the file section of the model, and you will see that this is a config underscore 1 million, where they have defined everything. So config.json, you can see that it includes key metadata and hyperparameters defining the model's architecture and settings. It typically includes details like number of layers, hidden units, attention heads, vocabulary size, and other model specific parameters. And you can see that this is where they have specified rope, theta, and all that stuff just to extend it, and a lot of other parameters defining the 1 million context size. Accordingly, they have set the chunk size and local size, as you can see here. That's it. Let me know what do you think. I think
Anthropic just gave Claude the ability to remember your previous conversations. This isn't just convenience, it's the birth of a truly persistent AI relationship.
That function that you've just built, or lose track of your project structure midway through a session, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It starts to forget important details because in a long running session, Claude Code will automatically compact the conversation. And then suddenly it's suggesting changes that would break everything that you've just built. The real problem is that we're filling up the context window way faster than we should be. Every verbose instruction, every unnecessary file that's read, every back and forth revision, all of that adds up. And before you know it, Claude Code is working with a fraction of the context, or the short-term memory, if you will, that it needs in order to be effective. So here's what I discovered. You can actually accomplish a lot more with Claude Code by doing less. I've got a few simple adjustments that you can start making today to not only 10x or 50x the size of the context window that you're working with, but these tips will also help you streamline your entire workflow. You'll build features faster, you'll debug more efficiently, and you'll never lose momentum due to these context limits. This is how we start to think about context engineering. It's about making this a win-win. More productive sessions and a smoother development experience when you're building with AI. So in this video, I'll show you some of these new power moves when you're working with Claude Code, including making the use of the new sub-agents feature, which is a total game changer. And I'll show you some updates that I just made to Agent OS. That's the free open source system I built for spec-driven development with Claude Code. It supports the new sub-agents feature, and I found a few ways for Agent OS to help you use your context window more efficiently. As we go along here, I'll reveal a few pitfalls that I ran into in my projects, and maybe you are too, which could be secretly eating up your context window unnecessarily. Once you see how simple these fixes are, you'll be speeding past other developers. Because that's what I do here on the channel and in my free weekly email, The Builder Briefing. I help professionals like you and me upgrade our workflows when it comes to building with AI. You can get the next issue of my Builder Briefing by going to buildermethods.com. And subscribers will be the first to access my Claude Code course coming this year. Now, in case you're wondering what all this talk about context windows is all about, let me give you a quick refresher. Think of Claude Code's context window as its short-term memory. Every prompt you write, every file it reads, every response it generates takes up a little bit more space in that context window. Now, this is not to be confused with Claude MD files, which I tend to think of as the long-term memory for Claude Code, since it contains information that Claude can refer back to anytime. The context window, on the other hand, I think of as the short-term memory for Claude Code, since that's the memory of things that we're working on right now and in the past few minutes. The context window for Claude Code is around 200,000 tokens, and that might seem like a lot, but you'd be surprised at how quickly it could add up. Reading a typical file in your codebase could eat up 500 or 1,000 tokens, multiplied by all the files in your codebase. And then again, if it's searching and rereading files or reading logs, or fetching documentation off the web and reading all of that, or analyzing an image, or reading a highly detailed spec, all of that fills up the context window fast. And once that context window fills up, Claude Code starts forgetting things. It's not that Claude stops working altogether. It tries to automatically compact the conversation, but in that process, it loses important details. So that function that you just wrote, it forgot about that. Or that important instruction that you gave it earlier, that's gone. Now it can find those details again, but it's like you're paying twice because the searching and rereading of the content eats up more tokens in your context window. Now I'm going to get into how to be a lot more efficient when it comes to managing your context window, but what do we do when we've already filled it up or we're coming close? You may know about the clear command, which completely resets the context. It's a clean slate. Use clear when you're done and you're ready to move on to the next task and the previous context doesn't even matter. Using the clear command is just like spinning up a fresh Claude Code instance, whether you're in a new terminal or if you're spinning up multiple Claude codes that run at the same time. And by the way, I have another video on this channel where I show you the best workflow for multitasking with Claude Code. And then you have the compact command, which Claude Code will actually use on its own automatically when you've filled up your context window. And what that will do is it'll summarize everything from your current context and then start a fresh context, pass along that summary so that you can somewhat continue where you left off. Now I say somewhat because a small summary of a 200,000 token conversation certainly will not capture every important detail that you want to carry forward. So did you know that you can proactively run the compact command and give it specific instructions on exactly which pieces of information and bits of content that you want it to include in that summary to pass along as you extend out the context window? And Claude Code conveniently shows you when your context window is running low. So that could be a good indicator for when it might be time for you to run that custom compact command and pass along your instructions to keep it going. And so instead of just typing /compact or letting Claude Code run that automatically, you might try something like /compact, keep the database schema and the authentication logic. And now Claude Code knows exactly what to preserve when it compresses everything else. All right, now we've got to talk about the new sub-agents feature in Claude Code because it's a complete game changer, both when it comes to your workflow and for massively extending your context window. Sub-agents let you create dedicated coding agents that are highly specialized in a particular area, like running tests or creating files or committing to Git. And so when you call on a sub-agent or when you ask Claude Code to delegate to any of your sub-agents, it passes along instructions, and then your sub-agent performs a task in its own fresh context window, meaning while it's performing that task, it's not eating up context in the main agent's window. All right, let me show you an example of putting sub-agents to work when I'm using Agent OS in Claude Code. So as a simple example, I'm going to start creating a tic-tac-toe game. I'm going to fire up Claude, and I'm going to run the Agent OS plan product command. And this is going to go through our product planning process. First, it'll gather some information about the product that I want to build. And usually I give it a lot more detail than this, but this is just a simple example. We're going to build a simple tic-tac-toe game, just creating a simple HTML vanilla JavaScript thing here. Okay, so it just called on the first sub-agent. That's the context fetcher. And what that one does is it goes into my Agent OS documentation and it pulls out my important preferences when it comes to building products. It then called on my file creator sub-agent to create some files and folders inside my project. So these are things that would normally eat up tokens in my main context, but as you can literally see here, 3,500 tokens were taken by that sub-agent. This one is writing several files and folders right now, all using its own tokens in its own context window. Okay, so now Agent OS is going on to document the mission for this new product, following our process for that. Again, we're calling on the file creator sub-agent. You can see the previous one used, over 7,000 tokens on its own. And this one is now writing a detailed mission for the product. And as it works, we are not eating up the main agent's context window. And so you can literally start to see the savings in context space, 8,000 tokens, 7,500, 3,500, and on we go. Now we're building out the tech stack for this very simple game product. And all of this is being built into the product folder in my project. My other video on the channel does a full deep dive into how Agent OS works and the philosophy behind it and how to use it. So you should check that out. Now, one of the nice things about how Agent OS is designed is we're going to build out all these product planning documents like the mission statement and the target users, the problem, the solution. We build out a whole roadmap. We have our whole tech stack documented here. And then this is a new update to Agent OS. We're now creating a mission light. So we have some of these light versions, which are easier and more context efficient to refer back to later when we're creating feature specs and then executing the tasks for those feature specs. All this stuff is useful for us humans on the team, as well as feeding it as training material to Agent OS when it's writing out specs. Okay, so we've built out all the product planning stuff for this project. The next step, of course, would be to move on to writing feature specs and then actually building out those specs. And those can even be in their own context windows. But let's just see what happened here. Every time we see one of these highlighted things here, that means that it used a sub-agent to do that task. And you can literally see the savings in context here. Again, almost 8,000 tokens, 9K tokens, 7,500. So each of these were done in their own context window. And so Agent OS now actually ships with its own Claude Code sub-agents. As of today, we have 4 that are built in, and I'm adding a few more as we go along here. So I'm hopping over to my home folder on my system here, we've got my core Agent OS instructions and standards. Again, I go deep into that in the Agent OS video on my channel. But in the Claude folder, we install the agents folder with these 4 sub agents. So you can take a look here. We've got our context fetcher. And by the way, I'm following Anthropic's instructions to say use proactively to do whatever it is that you do. In this case, it retrieves and extracts relevant information. So it's like reading lots of files and finding bits of information. I want that to be done by a sub agent so that I'm not eating up that context in the main agent's conversation. File creator is for creating new files, directories, applying templates and whatnot. Git workflows for commit messages and creating pull requests. And then test runner is for proactively running all of our tests for specific features or running the entire test suite and then suggesting fixes back to the main agent to execute on those fixes. So we've got like workflows and stuff built into these agents. You can take a look at them. Agent OS is free and open source for you to tweak and use and build on in your own projects. And by the way, if you want to start to spin up your own agents for Claude Code, it's super simple to do. All you need to do is run agent. And first it'll show you the agents that you have. Again, we installed a few from Agent OS. You might not have any yet. And so you can just go here and create a new agent. You can decide if it should be specific to the current project, or if you want to install it into that global agents folder on your system, as we did using Agent OS. And so you would just go through there and then generate with Claude. They'll give you a simple process and a simple template. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's create an agent that's an expert at refactoring front-end templates. I probably want to develop something like that in the near future, but let's just see what it comes up with. Then you can actually decide which sets of tools are going to be available to the sub-agent. You can even give it more granular control. In this case, this is just an example. We'll go with all tools. Oh, I just unselected that. So I'm going to select that again. Then I'm going to go up to continue. We'll decide which model it uses. Got to go with Opus, right? And then you can give it any color that you want. Let's go with orange. All right, then it gives us a basic template for the agent itself. Let's go ahead and accept that. And I'm going to hop over to my home folder, which is where it installed it on my system. And we're going to go into Claude under agents. And there is the front end template refactor agent that it created. So, Claude Code itself actually generated all of this, example content just on the very short description that I gave it. Now, you'll probably want to go in here and really tweak it to your exact preferences for what you want this type of agent to do. But that's a look at the process for spinning up your own agents. Here's the counterintuitive part. We're used to training our human team members with detailed documentation and context. But when it comes to training AI agents, being verbose can actually hurt performance. Every extra word in your instructions not only adds to your context window, but also introduces the opportunity for Claude Code to get confused or go down the wrong path. So it's better to be concise and direct, and then instruct Claude Code to ask clarifying questions when it needs to. Think of it like this. You want Claude Code to act like a senior developer who knows when to ask clarifying questions when it needs to, not a junior developer who needs every little detail spelled out. This is why spec-driven development works so well. When you develop clear specs up front, and then you spend the time to review that execution plan before you build, you don't need to give Claude Code verbose instructions when you get up to that building.
Hold up, fellow AI tech junkies. We just scratched the surface with these first mind-bending AI stories. From Meta literally reading your brainwaves, to those wild robot cage fights in San Francisco. Guess what? We're running out of time on this episode. So there's so much more to unpack. The AI revolution is moving at warp speed, and we didn't even get to the juiciest industry shakeups yet. But don't worry, this is just part one. Do us a favor. If you love this video, smash that like button right now and show your support. It really helps us know and helps beat the YouTube algorithm. Let others know about what's going on in the AI industry. Oh, because you're not going to want to miss AI industry must-know news when it launches tomorrow. See you tomorrow.